Welcome to the Total Soccer Show Weekend Review. Arsenal and Tottenham both entered the North London derby feeling queasy, but in the end, Eberechi Eze made it look easy. The Gunners restored their lead at the top, and Spurs now find themselves just 4 points from the drop. Man City booked a win and stuck to their plan, beating a Newcastle side coming off a 5,000-mile round trip to Azerbaijan. And if any club needs to be spoken to sternly, it's Chelsea, who failed to beat Burnley. On the continent, there was a change at the top in Spain as Barcelona won and Real Madrid was slain. And in Italy, a win for AC Milan was vital. But they lost, and the neighbours are running away with the title. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, hello, Taylor Rockwell. How are you?
I am better now. Can you give me the Azerbaijan rhyme again, please?
Minus 15. Do it yourself.
First of all, well done. Second of all, well done again, because that was a phenomenal introduction. I think it's an early frontrunner for Rhyme of the Year from Ryan Bailey. Nicely done, my friend.
Thank you.
But it's like toothpaste. Once it's out the tube, it doesn't go back in, so you better catch it quick.
That's right. You only get one go unless I mess it up and we have to re-record it again, which never happens. Hello, Graham Ruthven.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. How are you?
I'm well, I was going to say I'm very good, but I'm not. I think, like Taylor, we've had the classic children bringing illness into the home and ruining the weekend vibe. Yeah. It's kind of weird that Taylor and I are the ill ones when usually it's you.
I'm on a streak at the moment. I'm on a what team did I see that's on the longest winning run in the world? The Newcastle Jets in the A-League. I'm on a Newcastle Jets-esque run of no illness, so I'm sure that's coming next week.
Conversely, I mean, I'll take illness over where Joe is, which I believe still locked in the referee's room trying to get out, but Lionel Messi won't let him leave. It's a very difficult time for Joe Lowry right now.
Did Joe break any MLS protocols by opening that glass door, though? That's the question.
just trying to instigate. Joe just unlocks and runs away, and then lets chaos ensue.
Luis Suarez stopped him. Which is always the sign that you're in the right when Luis Suarez is stopping you from doing something.
Famously the arbiter of justice, Luis Suarez, getting involved there at the appropriate time. Listener, plenty of weekend to review here, but our MLS show will be coming on Tuesday. It will be going in depth on the opening weekend, and naughty Leo Messi and Joe going in rooms they shouldn't to complain about parking at LAFC. I assume that's what he was angry about at that point. But plenty more to come on the feed from that. And before we get to the games, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is the best way to support us. You can get bonus episodes, including Weekend Review Extra. All of the weekend we don't fit into this here episode goes in Weekend Review Extra. Bonus video content, access to our Discord server where all the cool kids are hanging out, and access to our brand spanking new TSS Scouting Network. Become a scout. We'll assign you a player. You can pick one. Graham, how's it going? We've lots of scouts out there now, right?
Yeah, Joe and I are still assigning players. I think we're up into like 70 players now or something like that. And actually, I'm going to drop one into our Weekend Review Extra show this week, because Mikey Moore, who's one of the players who's been assigned, he did some stuff in the Rangers game, and I'm going to keep the Scottish title race update, which I know is your favourite part of the whole week, Ryan. I'm going to keep that for Weekend Review Extra and talk about Mikey Moore, because he's fun.
I'm always very tuned in when you speak Scotland. I look forward to that Weekend Review Extra. Thank you very much. And our scouting reports, which will be read out on the bonus feed, as Graham noted, and on this feed coming later this week as well. Very good. All right, let's get to the weekend. Why don't we start in North London? Tottenham 1, Arsenal 4. The exact same scoreline as their last meeting back in November. Big reaction here from Arsenal for midweek, that draw with Wolves, restoring their 5-point lead at the top of the table. Spurs, though, lying in 16th now, as noted in the intro, 4 points above the bottom three. Graham, what did we think of this one? I thought it might be a more closely contested contest than it was in the end. Spurs didn't seem to have that many answers, particularly when they fell behind.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a possible scenario as well, Ryan, but as the match went on, I started to question my own logic there of why did I think this would be closer than it was? Because Arsenal right now, good team, Spurs right now, not a good team, and it was a huge result for Arsenal considering what happened at Wolves. When I know we didn't talk about that game because we were deep in MLS preview land last week, but they really did bottle that game. They lost and I don't use that term very often. Like, I think people are very liberal with teams bottling. Like, you can't just lose a game or draw a game and it constitutes a bottling. That was a bottling. They lost their composure. They panicked. They dropped 2 points to the worst team in the league when they shouldn't have. And so I guess there was no guarantee that the reaction in this game would be a positive one, considering what Spurs are also fighting for. But I thought what we got out of this game was a demonstration that Arsenal are really ready to embrace the reality of what this title race has become, which is an actual title race, right? Where it looked like being a procession a few games ago. Obviously, the gap is now back to 5 points at the top of the table, but Man City have a game in hand. They win that game in hand, it's 2 points. This is real. Now, we've got a title race on our hands. Manchester City, and we'll talk about them later on. When you see their celebrations after beating Newcastle, they've got belief now. And so Arsenal had to respond in some way. And I thought they did that really well in this match. They could have buckled within the game after the Declan Rice mistake, which was objectively hilarious to a neutral because of him doing the universal everyone concentrate head gesture, and then seconds later giving Spurs a goal.
Was he smiling after that? Or he looked like he was kind of really gutted and smiling almost at how stupid.
It's like a wry smile at how stupid he'd been made in that moment. And look, if this goes a different way, which there was never any realistic chance of it going another way, given this was 4-1. That could have been his Steven Gerrard moment. This doesn't slip now sort of meme as that became for Steven Gerrard with Liverpool. But it didn't. And I thought, if Arsenal go on to win the title, I think this game will be one of the landmark moments. It felt really significant by full time.
Graham, I agree with a lot of what you've said there, including the feeling that it never fully felt like this was going to be a game that Spurs were truly in. And there is a moment when it was 2-2, albeit very briefly, and then that goal is chalked out. We could talk about that or not. What do you feel like it was that made it sort of feel that way? Because as I said, for a moment, it could have been 2-2. It could have been a different game. But even there, it still felt like after the break, Arsenal had made some adjustments, and it felt like Spurs were maybe just more fatigued, more uncertain of what they were doing. It felt like they had pressed a bit more, but then started to set off more and more. And there's plenty of footage of Igor Tudor trying to get the back line to step up and nobody really listening. And so it just seemed like it was a first half in which the players were maybe up for it and understood the atmosphere and occasion of a North London derby. And then in the second half, maybe just long legs and a long season and a difficult season. I'm struggling as to why it's the case that a game that could have gone one way never felt like it was going to.
I mean, because Spurs are just not equipped to compete with a team like Arsenal. They can be competitive for spells of the match, and I thought the first half there were moments where it felt like, I don't know, they had some joy in transition, or maybe they were slightly better organised at the back. And there was intangible stuff as well, like the atmosphere it felt like there'd been a cleansing with the atmosphere. Obviously, it's been so toxic for such a long time under Thomas Frank. And I thought the first half of this game was quite a positive atmosphere, and that was maybe translating to the players and their performance as well. But when it came to it, Spurs had no real way other than pouncing on a Declan Rice mistake. And I know he gives away the ball in that moment. There's still a lot for Kolo Muani to do to put that ball in the back of the net. I thought he was one of the sort of rare bright spots for Spurs out of this game. But a Spurs fan is going to need to show me, or Igor Tudor is going to show me what the plan was to actually create anything on the ball from Spurs. And that has been the issue for them all season. Mm-hmm. And so, it is one game, and obviously it's against the best team in the league, so this is probably not going to be the measure. But the roll of the dice from Tudor was that he would find answers to solutions to questions that Thomas Frank was never able to, and this very much looked like the same Spurs team that we have watched. And we should mention 12 players missing for this game. That's a huge subplot to where Spurs are right now. That's kind of what I mean by they're never equipped to get anything from a game like this. But I found it quite concerning by the end of this match, where it's that's them sort of rolled the dice now. I feel like they've got Fulham this weekend, I think, Spurs away from home. I think that's their biggest game of the season. Because if we see nothing different from them again, it's like they've had the roll of the dice and they're still in the same situation. And that situation is very much a relegation fight, 4 points above the bottom three. So by the end, yes, it was a big statement from Arsenal in terms of their title chances. But on the other side, it just added to more of the narrative that had already built around Spurs.
Yep. And some of Tudor's comments afterwards, I feel like pretty strongly hinted / directly stated that there's just a mentality issue and there's a lack of kind of belief in the squad and in the team that bleeds into the way they play. And there's a lack of belief in, we can see this game out, we can create opportunities. And I think reading between the lines, the implication was basically that when things feel like they're not going their way, everybody kind of backs off. Everybody gets more defensive. Everybody sits a little bit deeper because they don't want to be the ones causing the mistake. And I think it is a natural thing to retreat a little bit when you start to think maybe this game is getting away from us. We've got to back off and then figure some things out. But it feels like once you start backing off, especially against a team like Arsenal, you're just seeding momentum and giving them that opportunity. And then once a goal happens the way it does to start the second half, it can feel like, here we go again. We can't really hang with it. then there's the perceived refereeing decision that goes against you, which I would say was questionable, the Kolomwani one. But in the end, it just felt to me like there's that mentality that has to be arrested and corrected, and that's a really difficult thing to do mid-season. It really is like trying to correct a tanker. And I forget who the last person was to use that analogy, but as I recall, it did not go well. Was it Eminem who kept saying that?
Sure. I mean, nothing he said went well, so it came out of his mouth.
Taylor, obviously it's not been very long for Igor Tudor, but if you had to issue a report card, what grade would you give? No, let me ask you this: of the Tudors who have had successful roles in England, where does he rank? Henry VIII, Elizabeth I? Where is he roughly in the Tudor rankings, do you think?
Somewhere between those two, I think. Right now, I'll put him. He hasn't beheaded anybody, so I think right there he's automatically up. That said, maybe it gets a reaction. I don't know. Maybe that's the way to inspire a fight back from your players. The appointment itself didn't make a ton of sense to me. I'm not sure it still does. I will say that the way he speaks, he has a I've been in Italy for a while, so I have some Italian affectations when it comes to how I speak English, and then I'm assuming also was a chain smoker, or maybe just yelled the whole game. Maybe both. But as a result, the way he speaks is very calming in a gravelly sort of way, and I'm going way too into the weeds on a very specific thing. But the way he talked about the players and the team, you could see how he's a manager who could put the arm around the shoulder of a player who is short of confidence and kind of get them going again with it's all going to be okay, but also you've got to prove that you belong here, like 1-2 punch. And so in that way, I think it can make sense. You just have to get buy-in from the players. And that is the major concern for me is, do the players see him as, you're here until Poch is here, you're the next guy in a long line of people who maybe haven't really impressed the way we thought they would. If you can't get the kind of senior players, such as they are given the injury list, on board, then nothing's going to change, to Graham's point. He strikes me as a person who can, more than I thought, make that happen, and maybe has just kind of been at the wrong club most recently, and now maybe is at the right club where he can kind of have more influence. But this game would be worrying to me were I a Tottenham supporter, just because it felt like at times the players weren't really responding to what he was saying. There wasn't that connectivity that we've seen from other clubs when they get the new manager bounce, when there is just a bit of a reprieve from whatever came before. So I would be very nervous as a Spurs supporter, but maybe with a slight sliver of hope that can be the difference.
Ryan, you asked what grade Tudor got out of this game. In high school, one of my friends once did his modern studies standard grade test with a highlighter. He forgot to bring a standard pen and did the whole thing in highlighter. And he didn't get a grade because they were like, well, we're not accepting this. That feels a bit like what I would give Tudor out of this match. Like the next test, as I mentioned, against Fulham this coming weekend, that's when we can maybe give him a grade, because Spurs just did not have the equipment. They had the highlighter pen to Arsenal's normal pen in this game. And so I just don't know if there's anything Tudor could have done. He set them up in a back three. I thought they were quite narrow, tried to stay compact. Obviously, he was quite happy for Arsenal to have the ball. I mean, Spurs had 28% possession in the first half, which was their lowest possession share of the whole season. But I thought there was some aggression in some moments. Jed Spence was doing okay against Saka until all of a sudden he wasn't, which kind of felt like Spurs' whole performance, actually. That sums up what happened in this match. But as this game went on, I think it just became clear. I don't know if there's any scenario where Spurs gets... I mean, maybe the Kolomwani goal stands. As you say, Taylor, that was a questionable refereeing decision, and Spurs kind of hang on for a 2-2. Maybe that's the only way they get something out of this game. But otherwise, I think the real measure of Tudor's impact is going to come in the next few matches.
Two things there. The first, Graham, since you've outlined it earlier in the episode, is taking an exam with highlighter an example of bottling it? Because that feels like bottling it.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Okay,
You
cool.
prepare the whole year and then you forget a pen. Bottled it.
That is a decision born of lunacy, I must say. Second question. Is anyone else baffled by the Kolomwani disallowed goal? Not for the obvious reasons that have kind of been laid out, which we can get into, but because when I watched that live, I was like, oh, there's no chance that goal is standing. It's absolutely a push in the back. At full speed, when it happens, it looks for all the world like he is just fully shoved Gabriel in the back and then gotten the advantage. So I wasn't surprised at all that it was disallowed. And then you watch it in slow-mo, and I don't think it's just that slow-mo makes it look worse/better, but it really is nothing in it. It's a little bit of a touch. Like, definitely Gabriel feels the hands on the back, but sells it. You can see the way he throws the legs up behind him. He does an exceptional job, so much so that I don't know how you know to do that as a defender, because
it's a great dive. It's exceptional.
But there has to be some I know this doesn't make sense, but there has to be some level of preparation there, because as a defender, if you do that and don't get the call, you've just given away a goal, and your coach is going to lose his mind on you. If this is any other team at Arsenal, I'm like, oh, he's just diving. With them, I'm like, have they practiced this? Has Mikel Arteta instructed them? Any contact, go down. I don't know. But it was so well sold in the moment that I'm kind of baffled by it. I don't get how it looked completely like a foul at full speed, and then on replay looked absolutely like not a foul at all.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because of us being in the VAR age now, the VAR is always going to kind of lean towards the decision made on the pitch if it's not completely clear cut. And so as soon as the referee gives that, then there's no way they're overturning it. And if I'm Mikel Arteta, I'm saying to Gabriel, yeah, that was excellent. Excellent. Do not do that again, because there's going to be a referee somewhere down the line who's not going to blow that up, and it's going to cost him. He does have a bit of a track record of doing things like that, Gabriel, while being like a complete battering ram in the other penalty box when going for a corner kick.
Oh, I'm trying to remember what that's from, where it's somebody does a surgery on zero sleep, and that was incredible, that was amazing. If you ever do surgery on zero sleep again, you're fired. That's definitely the vibe that came away from that one. And I think, Graham, to your point, that is the kind of differentiator. Much has been made of the one where Romero gets pushed in the back by Ekitike, and the goal stands, but that's because the goal stands from the center official, right? And so VAR isn't going to go back and overturn it. If that had been given as a shove, it probably stands the other way. I think Spurs supporters are justified in feeling very chagrined by that decision, and maybe there is an element of hey, it's 2-2, maybe Arsenal do end up bottling it there. I think that's just where I go back to. Even if that had been 2-2, it felt for all the world like Arsenal would find a way to get another, and maybe another, because they did.
They did indeed. So we've got battles at either end of the table for each of these teams respectively. If Tottenham fans want a little more pain, by my math, Tottenham are on 29 points with 11 games to play. Arsenal have 61 points. That means we're 1 point away from St. Totteringham's Day, the day when Tottenham can no longer overtake Arsenal mathematically in the table. So at least I didn't fall on this game as well for Tottenham fans. Is that a quantum of solace for Spurs fans? I don't know. Maybe it is.
I'm sure it is. And also, way to reference Graham's favorite James Bond movie, he told me. Ryan, was your introduction when you referred to Eze making it look easy, was that also a veiled commentary on the criticism and conversation around Eze's goals?
Well, just that there seems to be a lot of commentary around him, how if the timelines were slightly different, he wouldn't be wearing a red shirt in this game, right?
Also a great bit how he has done nothing, basically, for Arsenal, other than in the two North London derbies. His first goal in this game, this is almost unbelievable. His first goal in this game was his first shot on target in a Premier League match since his third goal of the hat-trick against Spurs in the first game of the season. That's just great comedy. There's nothing else you can say to that. Sorry, Spurs fans.
Yeah. I did want to rhyme Eze with easy, but it wasn't happening.
Well, no, but isn't there a whole thing where didn't I think the commentators refer to it as they were very easy goals, and then that was asked him in the post match about how do you feel about people saying your goals were easy and him having to respond. So I thought Ryan was jumping on the easy bandwagon, but no,
when you do get to tee yourself up for your own shot in the 6-yard box, maybe that isn't the most challenging, arguably. I don't play professionally. Who's to say? I don't know. Anyway. Arsenal with the resounding win in this one. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go to the rest of the Premier League. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the weekend review. Let's go to Eastlands. Manchester City 2, Newcastle 1. Nico O'Reilly with the brace in this one, putting Man City within 2 points on Saturday. But obviously that lead for Arsenal extending back to 5 on Sunday. I'd say, Graham, not a straightforward win by any means. Newcastle were put up a good fight here after the aforementioned 5,000-mile round trip midweek. Not a bad showing from them, but obviously Man City getting the job done, and as you mentioned earlier, they were very pleased with the outcome.
Yeah. I mean, there was real tension in this match, certainly from a Man City point of view, and it was the first time that I have felt the stakes of a title race coming through in a game that they have played this season. And just to repeat the point, the celebrations at full time, you could see that City felt this was a big win, and they were hanging on a little bit at the end as Newcastle put them under pressure, and they had that corner kick, Newcastle right at the end, that was a little bit chaotic. I think Nick Pope is up for that corner kick right at the end. And generally, I didn't think City were great. They did create the better opportunities. I thought they were quite wasteful in front of goal. But in a weird way, the way that they were able to grind it out, I think must have been really satisfying for Pep. And looking at his kind of reaction after the game, you could see like a little bit of a smile spreading across his face, because those are I know this is kind of leaning into cliche, but we've seen City blow away opponents even this season. I know it's a bit of a transitional year for them, but we haven't seen the other side of them. You know, they've been dropping points way too readily recently. I think this was only like their third win in, what is it, like 8 games or something like that. So they do really need to start picking up the momentum now, even as Arsenal are wobbling a little bit. But the fact that they were able to grind it out here was a warning sign to Arsenal, shall we say, that City they've been here before. I know they've rebuilt a lot of that squad, but they've still got a lot of players in there who have been in this position before. They've won countless titles previously, and yeah, I am feeling their threat larger now. And I've always been pretty confident that Arsenal are going to win this title, and I've even said they'll win it comfortably. I would still back them to get the title, but I'm feeling City's threat larger now than at any point in the year.
Yeah, definitely. Taylor, how much did you enjoy Erling Haaland versus defenders in this game? I think, did he post something like another day at the office with a picture of him having basically a shirt pulled off of him at that point?
Yeah, it was like the third time that Dan Burn like kind of off the ball threw him to the ground that the commentator over here said like, Erling Haaland loving a physical battle today as he always does, and he just looked absolutely like, is this what my life is? Am I just going to be battered and bruised for the rest of my career? It doesn't seem like he wants to give it as much as he ends up taking it, so I'm not sure he's enjoying these physical battles so much. And he didn't seem to be enjoying most of this game. He looked really frustrated, both with himself and with the decisions of some of his teammates. At the same time, he plays an amazing ball for the second goal for the assist. I felt like was just kind of a constant menace, and if nothing else, just a constant distraction for the Newcastle defenders so that other teammates from Manchester City were able to find space and time. And I go back to, like, I don't know what a foul is anymore, because when you're that big, it seems like you're just going to kind of have to be, like, fully mauled and brought down by, like, 3 people at once with a net if you want any sort of foul given. That said, I did also enjoy, weirdly, the way City responded to some of that treatment. To Graham's point, it felt at the end like a game they really wanted to win, and there is a little bit of a like, oh, maybe they're getting their teeth into the title challenge a bit. But there was also just a bit of grit and kind of steel about this game, and that is like very clearly displayed to me by the way Bernardo Silva goes in on Dan Burn in that clip that maybe some folks have seen, but he absolutely knows what he's doing, and it's after Dan Burn has fouled a couple different people a couple different times. But Silva just goes more or less flying in on him, not even trying to make a play on the ball. Somehow doesn't get a card, even though I believe he's already on a yellow. Definitely should have been sent off for that one, but wasn't. But that felt a bit like, yeah, we're protecting our own. We're looking out for each other. Like, I'm not going to let you get away with that. And there's something to be said for like one of the smaller players on the pitch, one of the slower players on the pitch, and Bernardo Silva just fully going at one of the largest players on the pitch and not really backing down. And there's like a feistiness there. There's a defending your teammates there. And ultimately with Bernardo Silva, I think there's just a vibe of he's a player that I think if you are a neutral or a fan of the opposition, you despise. And if you are a Manchester City supporter, the dozens out there, you probably love him quite a bit.
You make an interesting point on the Haaland thing about, is this what I'm resigned to, constantly being in battles with Dan Burn, pulling off my shirt? I had a friend who lived in Charlotte who's from Wales, and he was the loveliest guy, the gentlest guy, but he was massive and really, really muscly, a gym guy. And he always used to say, whenever he went to a pub, particularly in the UK, he'd just get picked on because all the tough guys wanted to come and speak to the tough guy and see if they could push him around a little bit. And he never interested in it at all. So I wonder if that is Erling Haaland's lot. He is that gentle, tough guy who doesn't want what is bestowed upon him. This question.
Do you think opposition players should go the other way and just be like, "Hey, man, you're great," and give him a hug? Would that be enough of a mind game for him that he would just completely not know what to do?
What conditioner are you using? It's wonderful. Yeah, very good, very good. I
think this is just—it's another performance though for Manchester City. I said previously, like, I don't think they are out of the title race. I don't think that this is like Arsenal's at a stroll, and then that kind of little blip in form for Arsenal happened. But this is a game where I think earlier in the season they might have lost it, Man City, or it might have ended up in a draw. And I think to Graham's point, with Newcastle pushing late, could have been a late equalizer. But this also felt like a different City team with some personnel back, making sort of like Pep-esque decisions, like the Ruben Dias yellow card in the first half, where he just knows he's beaten for speed and it's just like, nope, you're not getting by me, I'm pulling you back. Does end up getting the card, but that's just a hallmark of a Pep team, of like people kind of willing to sacrifice themselves, willing to pick up cards, willing to kind of do the dirty work to get the result that needs to happen. He also, Pep, makes smart changes, like taking Dias off at halftime, I think recognizing there is a bit of a speed disparity, but also that's probably going to end up as a red card instead of a yellow card. I think bringing on Cherki for Marmoush in a moment felt like it was an odd choice, because Marmoush and Haaland as part of like a front two in a 4-4-2 defensively were causing problems and I think always posed a threat going the other way. But Cherki coming on just allows you to have more creativity on the ball, more flair on the ball, but also allows you to slow it down and just keep it a little bit more readily and maybe draw fouls more readily. And so even that adjustment, I think, made some sense from Pep. And so overall, I think it's another important win for Manchester City as they try to kind of keep pressure on Arsenal.
Taylor, you mentioned the cynicism in the Ruben Dias yellow card. We haven't even mentioned the best bit of poop housery in this game, which was Dan Burns' goal, his headed goal being very marginally offside because he gets pushed offside, which felt unfair. But if the push isn't enough to be a foul, which I don't think it was, like, what do you do about that if you're the referee? You have to disallow it, even if it felt unfair.
It's a genius moment, because if you know that they're trying to just marginally beat that offside line, just shoving them offside and not even trying to get in a position, it's a choice. It works really well. It is why it happened. So I guess credit to, is it Rodri? No, it's Ruben Dias who does that, right?
Yeah, that's
right. Yeah. Not a great game from Rodri, now that I've mentioned him, but I think when you have everybody else around you kind of upping their game a bit, you can make up for that.
Newcastle love that vertical ball into Dan Burn to nod it in, don't they? They seem to do that a lot. So,
into the big man.
Into the big man, indeed. Did I detect, Graham, some Pep mind games after this one? I think he said words to the effect of, we're not going to win all the rest of the games this season. I don't see it happening. It felt like he was saying, oh, okay, sounds like you are saying the opposite of that, Pep.
We are definitely going to win every single game until the end of the season. Give us the trophy now. I mean, Pep hasn't been Pep for a while, right? Like, he's felt off, he's felt like he's been easily irritable, and so if we are going to get totally wired in Pep Guardiola again until the end of the season and Man City make this a genuine title race, then as much as I like being right about things more than anything else, and so from that point of view I would like Arsenal to get this done so I don't look like an idiot when I completely wrote off Man City a few weeks ago, but yes, that would be fun. That would be the optimum outcome for the end of the season, I think.
There we go. A couple more games from the Premier League to go through. A great result for Tottenham at Nottingham Forest 0, Liverpool 1. Alexis McAllister scoring a 97th minute winner for Liverpool in that one at the City Ground. Graham, what did we make of this one? It felt like, if I was a Forest fan, I'd feel a bit annoyed by that result.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool got really lucky here. And Arne Slot said as much after the match. He was really candid about what was a pretty poor performance by Liverpool. They weren't very good at all. It took them until the 54th minute to have any clear sight of goal, which was a block shot from Curtis Jones. And yeah, I thought Forest edged it on the whole, although it wasn't really a match. I mean, they didn't dominate. There wasn't a huge amount of quality between either team. I thought it was one of the poorer matches I've watched recently. But it's still so striking to see Liverpool with so much attacking talent on the field and just like struggling to create anything. Now, I should mention Florian Wirtz picks up an injury in the warm-up. And so he's a late strike-off from the lineup. So that certainly didn't help. He's been so important for Liverpool recently, and I guess it was natural that they would miss him. But yes, even still, Gakpo and Salah offered basically nothing. Salah didn't have a single shot in the 77 minutes he was on the field. Not a shot on target, just a shot. He did not have a single one. And it wasn't until Ngamoa, who I think a lot of Liverpool fans believe should be getting more game time, he looked electric when he came on, and that was the first time in the kind of 13 minutes he was on the field. It was the only time I felt like Liverpool had any kind of penetration or any kind of forward thrust. And then obviously stoppage time sort of exploded into chaos with the disallowed goal. I don't know if you guys have seen this, where the McAllister one-off, it gets disallowed for, he's got his back turned and it's a clearance from, I think, Ola Aina that comes off McAllister's elbow and into the back of the net. And I like to think the officials ruled it out because aesthetically that cannot be a winning goal in a Premier League match. But also it came off his arm. And then like a couple minutes later, McAllister actually scored it with a legitimate winner. So I think largely an unearned win for Liverpool, but I guess good teams do that from time to time.
Is it like, it's like in basketball practice, like you make the free throw by throwing it like with one arm and then the coach being like, no, you got to try it again. Yeah. Like you got to do it the right way. This isn't how we do it. And I'm glad McAllister learned that lesson and scored an appropriate winner.
You know how the referees are mic'd up to their assistants? They're actually mic'd up to Richard Masters, the CEO of the Premier League as well. He's like, this game is getting shown around the world. We can't have that deciding things. Nope. Not a nice enough goal.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The deep state in the Premier League is real.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Graham knows.
We need a bonus feed episode about this, Graham. That's what I think. But let's move on for now to Chelsea 1, Burnley 1. João Pedro with the early opener cancelled out at the death by Zian Fleming in the 93rd minute. Wesley, how many red cards have Chelsea got this season now? It seems
8.
like they get one at least every game. Wesley Fofana getting the latest in this one, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, this is something they just can't stop. They've changed managers. They've gone from Enzo Maresca to Liam Rosenior, and they still can't stop getting players sent off, and they also can't stop dropping points at home. That's now 17 points that Chelsea have dropped from winning positions in league games at Stamford Bridge this season, which is more than any other team at home this season. And also the all-time records in the Premier League is Southampton in the 21-22 season, which is 21. So this is now like a historically bad weakness for Chelsea. And obviously the red cards contributed to Burnley getting back into this game. But honestly, watching this one in full, Chelsea were going through the motions before the Fofana red even happened. And obviously having the man advantage allowed Burnley to get up the pitch more. But their best chances, including the one that led to the equaliser, I'm talking about Burnley here, by the way, they came from set pieces, which is when you would think Chelsea would be able to organise even with 10 men. That's one of the better. If it was open play, if Burnley were slicing through them and making the most of their man advantage and stretching the pitch, you'd go well, okay, fair enough, that might happen. But they just got James Ward-Prowse to sling corner after corner into the box, and ultimately that's how they got an equaliser, and they might even have won the game from one of those situations. So the marking from Chelsea was horrific. They had no idea who was meant to be picking up who. I guess maybe you remove Fofana from that back line, there is a little bit of confusion. But it didn't say a lot for their organisation as a team, Chelsea. So, shock horror, Joe would love this point I'm about to make. Chelsea changed their manager, but still have a lot of the same issues.
Graham, do you have thoughts on what the explanation might be for why they get so many red cards?
I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, I'm running through my head here of what would be the possible explanations, and they all sort of, I don't know, they feel like proper football man explanations than anything else. I'm gonna have to have a think about this one.
I mean, they're a young team, I guess, Chelsea, like one of the younger squads in the Premier League, so we were all stupid when we were young. Maybe that's the
I still
reason.
am.
Yeah, but true.
Younger stupid.
Not for you, Brad. But
yeah.
I could see it if it was a team that was like a Klopp Liverpool team from when he first takes over, of trying to instill a high intensity, high tempo attitude means that you're going to go into challenges and pick up cards. That doesn't really feel like what's happening here. It could be youth and kind of being overcome by the moment. That doesn't feel like it's it. It doesn't feel like they're truly chaotic such that they have to make last ditch challenges. Maybe it's some combination of all three plus a few other factors, and maybe that's what life is a bunch of things kind of blending together with no simple answer. But it does seem like there should be one, and I'm frustrated that I can't find it.
Quick question. Zian Fleming or Jan Fleming, parents James Bond fans? What do we
Yes.
think? Has to be, right?
I thought the same thing, yes.
Yeah. Timu James Bond writer. Very good indeed. Plenty more Premier League games to get to. We'll do that on Weekend Review Extra. Join us on there. By the way, I'd like to spend a minute or two talking about Sheffield Wednesday on the bonus feed as well. We've had a very monumental weekend, the earliest relegation in English League history. Very sad story there. Let's get to that on the bonus feed. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to go to the continent. Real Madrid losing a game. Goodness me. Let's hear about that after this. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the Weekend Review. We go to Spain now, where Osasuna got a 2-1 win over Real Madrid. Raul Garcia with a lovely 90th minute strike to settle this one. Seems like things aren't going too well at Real Madrid. Graham Ruthven, how do we feel about what they're up to at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, this result and performance is why I have been quite bold and quite quick, I guess, to write off Real Madrid as title winners, even though the table very much says they are. And actually, after last week's midweek results, they were ahead of Barcelona in the table. Barcelona lost to Girona. But I just struggle to believe that they can sustain a winning run over a long period of time, and in this match they got what they deserved, because I thought Osasuna were the stronger team. I thought they certainly had the clearer game plan. I thought they pressed well at moments, they were intelligent, and when they closed Real Madrid down, and Real Madrid really struggled to play through the midfield and into the attack all game. And the only moment where they had any kind of penetration was when Trent Alexander-Arnold comes off the bench in the second half. He immediately plays this long diagonal pass out to Vinicius Jr. on the left side, and it stood out. I was working this game for football, but it stood out. It made me go, wow, I've not seen anything like that from Real Madrid in the whole game. Whereas Osasuna, on the other hand, they got Budimir into good areas. Budimir, who is having an excellent season. I think he's going to be the starting centre-forward for Croatia at the World Cup. Victor Munoz was a threat down the right side. Lucas Toro as well, I thought, did a really good job of stopping Real Madrid build any kind of rhythm in central midfield as well. And Real Madrid, I've said this before about them, they're such a moments team. And that kind of works for them in a weird way, where they're able to kind of nullify matches and make them nothing matches, and then it's decided by a dribbling moment from Vinicius or a goal from Mbappe. But any time they come up against an opponent that has any kind of plan and is able to execute it in any way to stop them from doing that, they just look inept. And so I thought this game was yet more proof of that. So even though I know the table is really close between Barcelona and Real Madrid, and I think that speaks a lot to just like the talent that Real Madrid have, the fact they've got Mbappe, the fact they've got Vinicius, Bellingham, who I know is out injured at the moment. But when I look at the actual team, Real Madrid are miles behind Barcelona at the moment, and this performance just reiterated that for me, in my opinion.
So is that just then like the relative weakness of the rest of the league, Graham? Because I'm still confused by this one, because coming into it, they've won, 8 straight in the league. I think Arbeloa had a perfect record in the league. Yeah, and like they're missing Militao, who's coming back. They're missing Bellingham, as you mentioned. It feels like they're still kind of figuring out combinations that work for them and getting over the Xavi Alonso discontent. And we've seen like Valverde kind of rediscover good form, at least in my mind. And yet, I agree with you. This game just felt like they never really got out of like second gear, and it feels like never really thought they needed to, even as they were 1-0 down from the penalty, which was correctly overturned from a dive into a like, oh no, and when you step on the guy's foot, he tends to fall over. And then the Raul Garcia one, I'm happy ended up standing for being marginally onside instead of offside. Mm-hmm. But it just felt like Real Madrid were never like that bothered and playing with that level of urgency. And there's been times when that was to their benefit, that they were kind of just unfazed by what was happening. They backed themselves to get back into it and make something happen, and kind of always played with that calm. And this time around, it just felt like they were sort of like, I'm sure there's plenty of time left. We'll figure it out. Oh, the game's over? Okay. Well, we'll get the next one. Like, it just did not feel very urgent to me.
Yeah, and just to go back, Taylor, to your question about the rest of La Liga, I think this is a weak division this season. There's also a big talking point. Graham Hunter, who does a lot of the La Liga TV coverage over here in the UK, I don't exactly know what he was sourcing. I don't know whether he'd read an article or something, but he was saying that in Spain this year, there'd been a big drop-off in basically teams pressing high up the field, which has always been like a hallmark of La Liga, as teams being really proactive out of possession. Obviously, you know, the knock-on from tiki-taka and Pep Guardiola and everything like that. And so there's been a massive drop-off this year, and so is that La Liga teams looking at what the likes of Bournemouth and Brentford and Crystal Palace are doing in the Premier League and trying to imitate that, but then they just don't have, you know, these Premier League teams, these Premier League underdogs, they can spend 30 million euros on a top defender to make that approach work, whereas these Spanish teams, La Liga teams, just don't have that level of talent. So it leaves them open to being picked off by just more talented teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona. Or is it something more? I don't really have the answer to that, but it is a talking point in Spain right now.
It was also another game in which that Madrid midfield stood out as being not what they need, I think, in this moment. Because those Madrid teams of the past who could go down and then find a way back, we've beaten this drum many, many times, but had Luka Modric and Toni Kroos in the middle, and it felt like could pull strings from deep, could kind of provide connective tissue into the attack. This present midfield with Tchouameni and Camavinga and Arda Güler dropping in a little bit, Valverde occasionally doing the same, although usually playing wide, at least in this game, it felt like there was much more like safe passes or Arda Güler trying to dribble and then create something. But there was far less like delicately threaded passes through the middle to exploit Osasuna being caught out a little bit and kind of giving Real Madrid's speed and attacking talent an opportunity to get into advantageous positions. I came away, one of my notes, and this is maybe unfair to all parties, but my question for you, Graham, is Eduardo Camavinga a like better Yunus Musa? Like, is he a very talented midfielder who doesn't quite have like the passing range and ball stability to be elite? Because that's what I kept seeing from him in this game, and that's where I think the midfield questions started to get that much louder for me.
I think that's a great comparison, Taylor. I've never thought of that before. Even down to Camavinga will often be the one who gets shifted to, we need a left back for this game, right? We'll just put Camavinga in there. Right, we need a right back for this game. Camavinga can fill in there, which feels very Yunus Musa coded. He is an excellent player, Camavinga, but I think you need players. I think you need like a ball progressor next to him. And Real Madrid have tried with Arda Güler, and he is like very talented. And there's moments where you think, oh, this could work, but I think he's more suited to being higher up the field where maybe his lack of physicality isn't exposed so much. And it just means there's no progression from central midfield from this Real Madrid team. Like the fact that they had Kroos and Modric for such a long time, and then failed to replace either of them when they left, just says a lot about their transfer strategy or lack of transfer strategy over the last 2 years.
All right, there we go. Real Madrid are 1 point behind Barcelona at the top of the table now. Barca with that 3-0 win over Levante. Graham, pretty straightforward stuff from Barcelona, it seemed.
Yep, really comfortable for Barca. They needed a bit of a reaction after that shock defeat to Girona during the week, and they got that here because Levante were just never able to get a foothold in this game. Barca controlled things in midfield. Marc Bernal was excellent with his runs into the box. He scores the first goal in this game. Firmin's goal to make it 3-0 close to the end was an absolute hammer and off the inside of the post. But I thought João Cancelo was the best player on the pitch with his crossing and the danger he posed down the left side. That one kind of flew under the radar. There might be some listeners who missed that João Cancelo went back to Barcelona in the January transfer window, but he has given them another option. I think he might be that starting left back between now and the end of the season. And coupled with the Real Madrid result, Barcelona are now back in control of the Liga title race, which, as I've said, feels right because I think they are very clearly the better team right now.
Yeah, I definitely knew the Cancelo thing, as long as there's no follow-up questions. Atletico Madrid, Graham, how did they get on this weekend?
So this was an encouraging result for Atleti. They beat Espanyol 4-2 at home. I mean, it does nothing to change my broad opinion of them, which is that Simeone is struggling, and it feels real. This might be the end of his time. He might leave at the end of the season. But I thought the way that he set them up here for this game, it worked pretty well. So it was a 3-4-2-1 with Sorlos as the focal point, with Lookman and Griezmann around him as the free roaming 10s. Notable that Julian Alvarez, still not in the team, very much feels like he's on the outside looking in. I think a Premier League team is going to pick up a world-class centre-forward in the summer if he is on the move. I still think he's excellent. But this Athletic performance was good, and I thought that front line was effective because it freed up Sorloth to get into the box instead of asking him to have lots of touches of the ball, which is not what you want Alexander Sorloth to do. He's a focal point. You want him getting on the end of crosses, which is what he did with a couple of his goals here. And then I thought having Llorente as the flex back worked really well on the right side with Giuliano Simeone ahead of him. But the real revelation was Alex Baena, who was exactly the sort of... We were just talking about Real Madrid's lack of a progressive passer in midfield. Baena in this game was exactly the sort of creative passer that Atleti have needed for years. And this is why I thought they signed him in the summer. He was excellent for Villarreal last year. And because of injury and other reasons, he hasn't been able to sustain a run in the team. But in this game, he was the one threading through passes and bouncing passes around Espanyol. And Johnny Cardoso as well was very good. He was the central midfielder alongside him. We kind of rag on him often, or at least Joe does. But so I feel like we should note when it happens, when he plays well for Atletico Madrid. And so if this is the balance, if this is the formula for Atleti going forward, then yes, he absolutely should be on Pochettino's radar for the World Cup because he was good.
Marvellous stuff. A quick jaunt to Italy, where Inter are still doing very well indeed. They had a 2-0 win at Lecce. Mkhitaryan and Manuel Kanji with the goals there. Good bounce back from that defeat to Bodo Glimt midweek last week. They've now won 7 successive games in a row in Serie A, have Inter, but still can't get it done at either Bodo or Glimt, wherever they play up there. They're 10 points clear because Milan lost at home to Parma. A 1-0 defeat at San Siro, their first defeat in 26 league games, in fact, since the opening day, if memory serves, for Milan. So not very good for them. They are 10 points behind their neighbours. Also, defeat for Juventus at home to Como as well. Como doing pretty well, of course, this season, but that's days after getting battered by Galatasaray as well for Juventus. Graham, they were wearing a 4th kit for Juventus, which is the same colours as their first kit. I have feelings about that, but they were also hoops, black and white hoops Juve were wearing, which made them look like prisoners to me.
I mean, which would be apt for Juventus. I also thought it looked like a rugby shirt, which again, given how they played against Como, no football was played on that day by Juve, so that was also appropriate. But I was close to buying it, I have to admit. The long sleeve version was £150 though, so what's that, like $180? That's a lot for a shirt. So
that's the going rate in Major League Soccer though, Graham. So
it is indeed, yeah.
What's going on with Juve? Are they just...
Well, what happened, Taylor, is last weekend I said that I felt like they'd really turned a corner under Spalletti and felt good about them. And then they got smashed by Galatasaray and lost at home to Como. So,
well, they did turn a corner, but not the right
just
way.
Not the one I was anticipating.
But also haven't won in 5 games now, right, in all competitions, including that destruction by Galatasaray. I thought Spalletti was going to be the kind of the cure-all, the tonic they all needed, and instead he just seems to be causing more distress. Maybe he's not the problem, I guess, is the point there. Maybe there are other larger, more institutional problems with the club that still try to fire Weston McKennie.
Wearing a 4th kit at home, I think, is where we can start with that behaviour, I would say. Bad behaviour from Napoli as well. 2-1 defeat at Atalanta, leaving them 14 points behind the leaders in 3rd place as well. Not so good from Napoli there. Hey, Taylor, before we head out of here, why don't we go to the Bundesliga? Harry Kane scored some goals, you say? Sounds like a weekend.
Right. I think I saw it's his 500th goal or something like that, and it's his 300th in the top flight leagues. I think he's already eclipsed his goal-scoring record from last season, or his goal-scoring form from last season. The narrative on this game for Bayern has been interesting to see, because it feels for all the world like people desperately want there to be a title race in the Bundesliga, and so are looking for ways to try to make that a thing. Bayern are only 8 ahead of Dortmund, which is better than Serie A, so maybe there is a title race in that way. But the idea, I've seen some people speculate that Bayern's defensive record is a big problem, and they let in 2 late goals here, and it could have gone a different way. It's still the best record in the league defensively. I think they're still doing okay. They've kept 2 or 3 clean sheets in the last 5 games. I think they're going to be just fine. Bayern Munich, especially when they have Harry Kane scoring the way he did. And then, go ahead, Graham.
I was just going to say, are we going to talk about that finish? I think I put a video of it in our Slack chat. That's unreal. He's not human.
The bend?
I have no idea how you get enough swaz on that strike to then bring it back in and to do it so effortlessly as well.
Yeah.
It's just a joke.
It's also not sometimes when you get that spin, it's very exaggerated trivela. It's very obvious the way you've struck that. And he has a little bit of that, but it's not nearly as much. I think sometimes you just are in that level of form and self-belief. It's his I'm Keith Hernandez moment for Seinfeld fans out there. Just knowing I know how to hit this. I'm going to hit it perfectly. It's going to do exactly what I want. I'm Harry Kane. No one can stop me.
Yep. He'll be very human this summer, just for the record.
Well, the rest of the Bundesliga was also very human. Dortmund in 2nd, Hoffenheim in 3rd, Stuttgart in 4th, and Leipzig in 5th all drew. Dortmund and Leipzig drawing each other. And then Leverkusen in 6th lost. So you have Bayern furthering that lead, and then there is a bit of a chasing pack, which is a bit further back. One other match to note, Gladbach losing 2-1 to Freiburg, dropping them ever closer to the relegation zone. Joe Scally plays this one, doesn't have a great game. Gio Reyna does not play, is reportedly injured, is not in the squad. Yeah. Feels on brand, feels like things are going the way they sometimes go for young Gio Reyna, who is still young, lest we forget, but not a great season for Gladbach and not looking like it's getting much better anytime soon.
If I may, Taylor, I'd like to highlight a goal of the season contender from this weekend in the Bundesliga as well, between Köln and Hoffenheim, which finished 2-2. Ragnar Ake with a bicycle kick to open the scoring. Listener, have a look for that one. Rkache. It's Trevor Sinclair-esque. It's quite superb. I'd recommend that as a pushcast contender. Graham's just seen it. It's tasty, isn't it?
That's good.
Yeah.
It's a proper bike as well. Love that.
Very athletic.
Can we clip that noise, please, of Graham? I need that as a sound effect for future episodes.
I need that. Yeah, for my remixes, for my DJ set in the weekend. I'm going to be putting that in. Very good. Indeed.
I want that as my text alert.
I want it as when you lock the car. It makes that noise. Very good. All right, that's the Weekend Reviewed. If you want some extra, we have Weekend Review Extra on the bonus feed, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show, where we'll go through the rest of the Premier League games. Melbourne Derby, Juan Mata scoring a goal. He's 100 years old, still scoring in Australia, and Sheffield Derby as well to be spoken of in that episode. But for now, Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much indeed for your contributions.
It was in the running order, and I'm still surprised that Juan Mata is playing. My pleasure, Ryan Bailey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Graham Ruthven.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
Thank you very much, listener. And remember, all the MLS you can handle coming to the feed on Tuesday as well. But for now, bye.